All right. Here I am with Carina and Dave, Land Development Kings and Queens, or Queens and Kings. And we're going to talk about a fantastic project, in my opinion, and I think Carina and Dave's opinion, fantastic project in Pembroke, a small town north of Ottawa. And so, Carina, this is the spreadsheet that I sent you and Dave, I think, yesterday. And I think you're presenting it to an investment group today at 10, right?
That's correct.
So I'm going to redate this because I've changed a couple of things. You know, this is a spreadsheet. It's an important, first step, but it really is a document that is evolving, if you understand what I'm getting at. So,
sure.
I mean, we'll be working on this, probably for a couple of years, really, to get it to the point where we want. You can see my screen okay, Carina?
Yes.
Okay. So yesterday I went on land titles, and I sent you the Geo warehouse, which you probably already have, but it says that the land area is actually about 189 acres. So I'm going to change that.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
We thought it was 185, but at least the land registry says 189. So we might as well go with that. And what we're trying to do with this spreadsheet is, it's really still pretty much a guess, but what is the internal rate of return for this project? And you remember, Carina, I don't think Dave was with us, but I did explain it to Dave separately. Dave, you remember, and I know Carina remembers, that we have to divide land development really into two components. One is the land development process, and one is the building process, and we have to keep them separate. Okay, you remember that?
Yep.
All right.
Yep, I remember that clearly.
All right, thank you. And the reason for that, as I explained, is that they're different businesses. They're really as different as, running a shoe store and running Facebook, right? I mean, they're just completely different industry. I mean, they're the same industry, but completely different businesses. In land development, you have to buy smart. You have to know something about municipal or county or township or provincial or state policies. You have to understand the highest and best use concept. You have to understand how much it's going to cost to service the land, and what you could sell each parcel for, even if you're selling it to yourself. So, Carina and Dave, if you had a big company, I mean, at one point I had a large-ish land development company, and we did this, 30 years ago, right? So we had land development under one profit and loss statement, and then home building, office building. We built some hotels, we built some commercial plazas. They were treated separately because they're very different, and you guys know, if you're building a duplex, that's very different than buying a piece of property, maybe severing it, maybe rezoning it. They're completely different. So even if you sell it from yourself to yourself, you have two divisions, and they operate as if they are independent of each other.
Got it.
So what we're doing now is we're only looking at the land development side of the business, because that's all that's relevant now.
Yeah.
If you guys decide to build some of these things, or your investment group decides to build some of these things, no problem. You sell it to the builder, if you will, at the same price, pretty much, that you would sell it to a third party. Okay. All right. So what we did, and I'm going to go back to this plan down here. So this is I got this from Geo Warehouse. So I sent this to you, and it has some dimensions on it, right?
Yeah.
And I think I sent you it. Just because I couldn't get it on one image. This is, I think, I call it the upper portion of the land, which is on TV Tower Road. It's got that beautiful farmland here. It's got quite a bit of bush here. So this is the northern part, or I'm not sure if it's northern, but this is the upper part of the property with some dimensioning on it. And then this is the lower part of the property. And what you and your team, Carina and Dave, decided was that we probably are going to sever off a couple of retail sites. These are about 1.25 acres each. That's just approximate, okay? So we could have two retail pads here. Then I put the sports dome, the dormitory, and the retail site in behind. Can you see it here? The yellow? Yep. And then I created something for stacked towns and multi-res. All right. So and then this thing here would be another ingress and egress. You've got one ingress and egress here from Jean Road or Jean Road, Jean Road, I guess it's probably Jean Road. You've got one access point here already, which I hope is 20 meters wide. In fact, it's bigger than that. It looks like it's about 116 feet, so that might be 30 or 35 meters. So plenty of room here for a municipal road. And I left this here, Carina and Dave, for a municipal right-of-way. Okay. And that would be a minimum of 20 meters. All right. It might be 25 meters, depending on what the city says, what Pembroke says. But anyway, so what I was hoping is that we could get 3 severances, maybe 4, and this severance would have an easement over this. So right now, there would be no road work, or if there was any road work, it would be quite small. All right.
Right.
You might be required as a condition of severance to put a road in here, okay, to service this site and this site. And I've done that before. I want you to be clear about this. Am I recording this? Did I remember to record it?
Yes, you are.
Okay, thank you. It's early in the morning. And by the way, Dave and Carina, have you gone for a walk today?
We have not. We've
No,
been
but I've already worked out this morning.
Well, yeah, but I just wanted to mention to you, one of the things that I try and do every day, if I can, is to try and get outside in nature, winter or summer, for 20 minutes. It doesn't take very long. And if you could go for a walk today for 15 or 20 minutes, don't take your phone with you. Don't take music with you. Don't take a pen and a piece of paper. Just be in nature for 15 or 20 minutes. It will help in so many ways. I mean, this is just some personal advice. You can ignore me. But today in Ottawa, the air is so clear. It has rained. It's beautiful, sunny. It's a beautiful temperature. The air smells like perfume. Nature smells like perfume. It's fantastic. So that's what I was doing until like 30 seconds before I booted up Zoom. So I got into my office literally 30 seconds before we got on this call. Anyway, that's my recommendation for what it's worth. All right. So, all right. So this is the highest and best use, I think, and it will also help to de-risk the process. And here's how we're going to do it. This dome and playland site might be 6 acres, and we might get just under $1 million for it. That's what I think it might be worth. I'm doing.
Can you remind me again what dormitory means?
A dormitory is, you know, so one of my clients is doing exactly this on 6 acres in Rockland. Right? And it's right next to a high school. It's right next to a shopping center and an arena. And he's building a dome and a dormitory. And the dormitory is where people who come to, you know, learn. He's got a tennis and pickleball academy. It's called Score Academy. And so he's building a dome. And next to it, he will have places for students to stay, you know, because sometimes they'll come and do some coaching with him for 3 weeks or even 3 months, right? I mean, he coaches elite level tennis players and I guess in the future pickleball players. And so a dormitory could be, you know, something like Eric Brisson builds. It could be, you know, a 2 or 3 story building with 35 units in it.
Okay, right? I got it.
It's not for long-term rentals. And it's not really for short term either. It's kind of medium term rentals, you know, a week, 2 weeks, a month, 3 months, that sort of thing. Is it making any sense?
Yes.
And in his case, because he's very close to, it's in Rockland and he's very close to the Hammond Hill guys, he might not actually build a dormitory, just might have, you know, 30 tiny homes on the site.
Yes.
I mean, you know, Rockland, by the way, has approved just rolling the damn things on site. So it's a super cheap alternative to a dormitory, but it might also be a 2 or 3 story building.
Okay.
Okay. So I think you'll get at least $165,000 per acre plus HST for the damn thing. So just under $1 million. And the idea would be to sever these off as soon as possible and sell them so that we de-risk the process. We get some cash. So I'm just going to deal with these 4 things initially. So maybe that's something we could do. I'll just make it all yellow here. Maybe that's something we could do sooner rather than later. And then those 2 retail sites that I showed, I'm guessing that they're about 1 1/4 acre each. And the value per acre, I just put in at 615,000, but you know, it might be higher than that. So that would come out to about $760,000 or $770,000 per site. And what's nice about these two sites, at least here, is that when you look down at the picture again, here is they front on Jean Street here, or is it Jean Avenue or Jean Street? Oh, sorry, I can't hear you, Carina.
Jean Avenue.
Oh, it's Jean. They say Jean, do they?
Yes, that's how they say it, because I used to say Jean as well, and it's Jean.
Yeah. Okay. So good. Thank you for correcting me. So these two retail sites and then this stacked towns and multi-res, they actually have frontage on Jean Avenue. Did I say it right? Jean Avenue?
Yep.
Okay. So they actually front on Jean Avenue. So again, you're not responsible for any servicing costs for these three sites. That you're selling them just like that, and you're not doing site plan approval for them either, because that's a hell of a process. You're just simply severing them. You're going to put them on MLS. You can put them on MLS with your realtors, and if you want to do it with my two young realtors, Simon Cordaweg and James McCune, let me know. Just put these three sites on, and even the fourth one here. Put these sites on MLS subject to severance. If a severance comes through, you can close the sale. Severances are processes that you should be able to do in, you know, a minimum of 2 months, or minimum of 2 months, and hopefully a maximum of 6. Now, the one thing that you might be required to do for this site here, the sport dome and dormitory with a little bit of commercial, is you might be required to put in a stub road. And I'm going to show you one where we did exactly that. Okay. I'll show you one. So it's not without precedent. And this will be on the recorded. So I'll just go to the street view. Sorry, the street view here. So this is in Beckwith Township, if you know where that is.
Yep.
Yeah, it's kind of on the way to Carleton Place, between Ottawa and Carleton Place. And one of my clients, so there's a residential subdivision. I don't know if you can see it here on the screen, but there's a residential subdivision here called Ridgemont Heights, I think. Which has quite nice houses that would probably sell now for $1 million. You know, a few years ago, 600,000, but today probably closer to $1 million. And so Tom Clifford did this subdivision with his son, and my client owns this farm here. If you can see my cursor moving around, this farm here, and this rural property down here. What we did was we applied for a severance to separate the agricultural land from the rural land, which was approved by the township, and we sold the farm to a farmer. This piece of property here, which I think is 52 acres, is going through a process of subdivision. But we got the severance, right, approved, so we could sell the farm off, but my client, who is a doctor, wanted to keep this and develop it. But one of the conditions of the severance was that she had to extend Douglas Side Road like this. Can you see that little stub road here?
Yeah.
So that was a condition of the severance. So we sold the farm for a whole bunch of money in 7 figures. And this thing here is probably worth, you know, $2 or $3 million as a piece of raw land with an approved subdivision on it. So it was justified to spend $65,000 on this stub road.
Okay.
But she did not put that stub road in until the severance was approved. And she had, I think, either 1 or 2 years to do it. And it didn't take her that long. I mean, she did it pretty much right away. So it was about $65,000, including this turning circle here. Okay.
And Bruce, that's not including like bringing in the services from through that road?
Yes. This is a rural cross-section road. And it might have, I can't remember, but it probably has some buried pipes for internet. It probably has some buried pipes for, I think natural gas might be here. It might have, you know, Bell cable or Rogers cable, or today, I guess, fiber optic in that. So it would include some services, but not, you know, certainly not piped water and sewer, because there is no piped water and sewer here. It's all well and septic. Okay. So if we go back now to our spreadsheet, you might have to put in a road that looks exactly like this, but if you're bringing it in, you know, with municipal services, it'll cost more than $65,000, right?
course.
You know, I'm guessing that's, just give me a second here. This dimension here is about 225 feet. So 225 divided by 3.3. So that's about 70 meters, all right? So you might need, you know, 85 meters of road. And today it probably costs $1,500 a meter, including services. So that your road probably would cost double what it costs the doctor. All right.
Okay.
But if you're selling this and this and this and this site for millions of dollars, you can afford $125,000 to $150,000. You follow what I'm getting at?
Yes.
But I suspect you'll only have to put that stub road in as a condition of doing this severance. So this thing here will have frontage on a municipal road, and then it will also make this site a little bit more valuable. And I'll tell you why. We might extend it even a little bit further, and it might cost you, say, $200,000. But if we extended the stub road to here, then it would give whoever buys this the opportunity to divide up this parcel, himself or herself, themselves, and sell off part of it to defray their costs. So, for example, let's say Eric Brisson wanted to buy this to build a few of his nice 2-story or 3-story apartment buildings. There'll still be enough room for him to do that, plus sell off a site for stacked townhouses, if you follow what I'm saying.
Yes.
So what Eric could do is he could buy this from you guys and then divide it himself and sell off another piece so that his cost of land would be much less, possibly as little as zero, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
All right. So now let's go through it again. All right. So we're hoping the retail sites will sell for over 760. The Dome site for maybe 990, and then
Bruce?
yeah.
Oh, sorry. Is this the 615? Is that based on like your comps? I'm guessing.
I beg your pardon?
The 615,000 for retail. That's just like severed land, and it's based on comps that you've seen in the area.
It's based on my opinion. All right.
Okay.
The only comp that we have so far is the one that you found.
Yes.
Okay. So all of this needs more work, but you did not give me a whole lot of time to work on this.
Yeah. Okay.
So before we would put this on MLS, if you want my 2 young fellows to do it, I'm going to put them to work and get them to do all the comps, not you and Dave or me.
Got it.
Right. I mean, that's what I pay them for, right? You know, so I don't have to do everything.
Okay.
But if you want to use some other realtor, we're going to get him or her to do it too. Right.
Got it.
But I think you'll like James and Simon, and it allows me to make a bit of money too, because they work for me. But it's up to you. It's okay either way. But my experience tells me if you could get a 1.25 acre retail pad for $750,000 these days, pretty much anywhere, because you have to understand that a retail plaza in a small town like Almont or a small town like Pembroke, the lease rates are very similar to Ottawa.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You know, for example, if I put a restaurant in here, a good quality, you know, pub, they're going to pay probably between $26 and $28 per square foot per year triple net. You know what triple net rents are, right?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
If I did the same thing in Ottawa, maybe I'd get $2 a square foot per year more, maybe $4, but it wouldn't be like I'm going to get $10 in Pembroke and I'm going to get $30 in Ottawa.
Right. It's not that much.
I've done some deals, you know, in recently in these small towns. One with A&W, and then there was another restaurant comparable to that. You know, they have probably an A covenant. You know, they're well known, and in a small town, you know, they're paying, you know, $28 a square foot, and in Ottawa maybe I'd get 30 or 32.
Mm-hmm.
So the price to buy a retail pad in Pembroke, if somebody says, well, I'm not paying that much, I can buy a pad in Ottawa for that, maybe, I doubt it, but maybe. But the rates are virtually the same. So you understand, so the cost of your raw land should be similar.
Got it.
All right.
Okay.
So that's my opinion. And then the stacked townhouse site, and this is new, okay? So I put this all together in a 15-acre parcel. And again, going down to this thing here, this is not to scale, right? This is just me fooling around.
Yeah.
So we need to have a surveyor or a planner draw it up properly. This is just me sketching things so we can have a discussion. But if we sold the 15 acres at $325,000 an acre, that's close to $5 million. And what I did, this is new, after we finish this call, I'm going to send you this spreadsheet again, okay?
Okay.
So I put in what I think is maybe the kind of densities that we can achieve. All right. So for single family homes, if we had 20 acres, this is relevant to TJ, I think. If we had 20 acres and TJ wanted to develop 20 acres of single family homes, maybe with some basement apartments, garden level suites. Oh, I should have added this in, or micro suites, slash coach houses, backyard coach houses. So if TJ was interested in doing that, oops, sorry, I screwed up. Where is it again? Yeah. Just move it over here so we can see it. If TJ was interested in doing that and he paid $6 million for it, and he gets 12 units per acre, UPA stands for units per acre. So let's say he got 12 lots per acre, right? So an acre is 43,560 square feet, all right? And we have to subtract about 30% of that for open space and roads and other things. So multiply that by 0.7, we get 30,492 square feet of actual usable area. And if I divide that by 12, it means each lot is quite small, 2,500. So that would probably be too small. So I'm gonna go 8 units per acre. I'm gonna change that. That's what I mean. So if we get 8 units per acre on 20 acres, he would get 160 homes, and that's equivalent to paying $37,500 in raw land per lot. Okay, which is a very good deal. There are plenty of, I just mentioned Jillian Espy's, Dr. Espy's property there in Beckwith Township. It's probably worth $2.5 million as raw land. And you divide that by, there's 21 lots there. It works out to about $120,000 per lot. And that's before you put in any services, roads or any other services, right? So if you sold that to TJ, I think that would be a responsible number, okay?
Yeah.
And I think any reasonable home builder, if you're selling homes in Pembroke, they're not going to be cheap. I don't care where you are these days. Those homes will be $750,000 to $950,000 by the time they're done. Mm-hmm. So if you pay $37,000 for $37,500 and it's a $750,000 home, that represents 5% of the selling price. Anything under 10% is reasonable.
Yeah.
So I think,
considering that he would do single family, because he could be doing a whole different build form, could be stacked.
Right. So I also looked at what it might be like to have the townhome site, 30 acres, a little bit more expensive than single family, almost $10 million. If you can get 24 units per acre, which I think is achievable, that would be the equivalent of 720 towns, and that's only $13,500 dollars a door. But I'm going to change that just to be cautious to 20. It's still only 16 grand a door. Right. And townhomes, in Canada are selling for 700, 750, and in Arnprior probably not very much less. All right. So that again, that's a very reasonable number. And stacked towns, I put in 32 units per acre. That would give you 480 stacked towns. Again, I'm going to just back off of that and say 26 instead, just to fool around. Still very, very inexpensive raw land. All right. All right. So those are the immediate things that we would focus on. And I'll just save this so I don't screw it up. And what I did down here, this is a little bit more complicated, was wasn't sure what your servicing would cost. You know, initially I put it in at $8 million, but because some of the servicing will be done by the buyers as opposed to you, let me go back down here. Let's say TJ buys a bunch of land up here for single family homes or whatever he decides to do on it, okay? He's got access to TV Tower Road. It's going to be up to him to bring services. As long as you're providing access to a public street, you're not providing those services. So the services that you will provide will be the kinds of things that I talked about here, you know, for example, maybe a stub road here, which at some point might be extended to here, right? And those are relatively inexpensive. So I felt okay when I went through this yesterday, reducing that from $8 million to $3.5 million, but it's just a complete guess.
Right.
All right, but it's probably more reasonable than what I had before. So what I did was I looked at, here are your total costs, all right? That's just an assumption by me, to buy the land, to take it through various processes, you know, and you notice I didn't put any financing fees in here, so I better change that. Insert sheet row. All right, so I apologize. Again, it is, and I'll get you out of here in time for your, you know, your
But
call.
for the initial one, the severances, we wouldn't be doing the servicing to the lot line, except for bringing that road, I guess, as it's probably going to be part of. So that 3.5 servicing to a lot line that you've allocated there, is that for that stub road and bringing in the servicing through that stub road?
Well, it's $3.5 million for all the servicing that you're going to do, whether it's this little stub road that we talked about, which hopefully will cost you $125,000 or $150,000 as opposed to $1 million, right? Which is, you wouldn't pay $1 million for a stub road like that. By the time me and you, Carina and Dave get through with whoever the road builder is, you know, it'll be $125,000 to $135,000 probably for that stub road. But there will be other servicing, which we don't even know what that will look like yet.
Yes.
All right, so it's just a guess. And I'm putting in some financing fees. Hopefully you won't pay 4%, but I put in 4% of your servicing costs. And I'm going to put in that you're going to pay 12% on your construction loan. And you're going to have that out there for, I'm going to say 15 months. All right. These are just placeholders. Okay. So that'll add some additional costs. So it equals 12% times your servicing costs times 15 months divided by 12 months per year. So that adds, you know, a little bit to this number. So I got to make sure that we've done it right. Okay, let me just check that.
Can you explain what those red fields are?
Yes, of course. I got to make sure. Where is it? Just give me a second here. Before I send this to you, I'll just have to check that I didn't screw it up. Okay. But the good news here is that your total revenues, if we can achieve these goals, this is the land development side of things, right? I better put that up here. Jesus, Firestone, wake up. Okay, you reading what I'm writing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so I said land development part of the business only, builder margins are in addition to this. So that's an important qualification. I'll put that in italics. Oops. So anyway, so your total revenue, if we can achieve this just on land development, is about $32 million, and your total costs, we're guessing, will be about 11 million. Okay. So if you act as the land developer here and you're successful with this, where you just sold everything, right? You'd make 20 million bucks.
Right.
And probably take 6 years to do. But the problem is, if we don't de-risk it, you'll go broke, right? Because you'll have the cost of acquiring this, the cost of servicing this, the cost of planning this and everything else. And if you're like my poor friends at Claridge, who bought, as you recall, 36 acres of development land for 11 million bucks, and then it took them 9.5 years to get their plan of subdivision in place before they could make their first dollar of revenue. That's how you go broke.
Yeah.
Okay, so we don't want to do that. So these negative numbers, if you just, you know, Dave, if you just click on them, it'll show you where I got them from. It up here, it shows you what are the cells, right? So you look at this again, it shows you what are the cells. So what I did was the negative numbers are all of your costs. So I apportion these costs, planning costs, over a period of time. 0 means at the end of this month when you close on this thing.
Yeah, okay.
Year 1, so 12 months from now. Year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5, year 6. I'm hoping that you can do this entire project in 6 years. The negative numbers are simply the money that goes out of your jeans, the red numbers, and the black numbers are hopefully money that you get in through severance and sale, or eventually subdivision and sale. So if you did this in 11 years, hopefully you could make about 20 million bucks, and your internal rate of return might be 60 or 70%. Where we were targeting 100% ROI, because land development is so difficult to do and so full of risk that, you know, remember my dad told me, aim for 100%. We're not going to get there, but we might get to 50, 60, or 70%, which will be okay.
Okay, so with the 3.151, that's the funds that is on closing, right?
So you've got, for example, you've got $3.5 million to buy this thing, I think, at the end of this month, right? And you got to remember, we're only looking at it from a cash point of view. We're not talking about the financing of it. So it's as if you spent $3.5 million at the end of this month.
Yeah.
And hopefully I put in sand pit revenues. I think this guy, the current owner, gets like $20,000 or $30,000 a year. I think it's going to be, I mean, a fair deal might be something like $300,000 or $400,000 for you from the sand pit, because if he's extracting, 150,000 tons of sand a year, which wouldn't surprise me, what the current owner is getting is, I mean, the reason he's so desperate to sign that lease with you is that it's so advantageous to him. He's making, I'd like to have that lease, by the way. I'll go into the sand mining extraction business myself if you let me take over that sand pit for $20,000 or $30,000 a year. I'm kidding, but I'm just saying that I think you might get 10 times that amount of money from some other operator.
So, okay, I get it now. So it's a 3.5 because that's what we need to close, but you're deducting what we think we're going to get for the revenue for that year, for year.
Yeah, well, hopefully we're going to renegotiate this lease. We're going to talk as soon as, not now because you haven't closed on it, but at the end of this month, we're going to have a discussion with them and say, well, look, we want a fair deal. Like, I want $3 a ton for every ton that comes out of there. If you're selling it for, $50 a ton, I think Carina and Dave should get at least $3, right? All right. So anyway, so I apportioned the sand revenues and land sales. But here's one thing that will help you, by the way, which I did not take into account, and I'm going to put a note here as well. Note that if Carina, that if a buyer finances some of the purchase price and cost of development, IRR will actually be higher. I don't know if you understand that, but that is a very important, so you might actually get to 100% IRR if there's some financing involved. And you do have some financing, right? You have a $1 million VTB, correct?
Yeah.
And that will, I don't have time to explain it to you right now, but that will goose your internal rate of return. It raises your internal rate of return. So let's say you sold me a duplex, nice duplex for $700,000, and I only had to put down $100, and you finance the rest for me. My internal rate of return, even if I make $100 a year, is 100%.
Mhm.
Right? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I have to work. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. So I have to work on that spreadsheet. I can't send it to you now because I think there's a couple of little arithmetic errors in it. I'll fix
Okay.
those. But what I wanted to say, Dave, are you still there?
Yep, I'm still here.
All right. What I wanted to say, I wanted to speak about the financing one more minute because Carina and I had this discussion, but since we're recording it, it will be recorded for you. This is what I think makes sense. The people that you're talking to in 23 minutes, I think it's a reef, right?
No, it's Hemem. It's another one, another guy.
Who's a reef?
Arif was the other one who does the resorts. It's another foreign buyer, foreign
Okay,
person.
so whether it's a reef or what's his name, the guy you're talking to today?
Hemem, Hemem.
Okay, so whether it's a reef or Hemen or somebody else, my understanding is that they want to invest in the project and become equity partners.
Mhm.
Okay, and so Dave, what Carina and I talked about is, let's say today they decided to commit $3 million to the project. That $3 million, in my opinion, could be broken down into $2 million in loan to the company that's acquiring the property,
Mhm.
and $1 million would remain on the balance sheet as equity. And what I was going to say is that the $1 million in equity would buy them 1/3 of this company that owns this property. And the $2 million would simply be, it's not a mortgage, Dave, it's simply a promissory note from the company to repay the $2 million with some interest that's cumulative, in other words, paid as a balloon payment at the end. And it probably should be a 6-year loan, because this is, I think, going to be a 6-year project.
Yeah.
So hopefully you don't pay a damn thing until the end of the project. However, if they want to get paid as you go, then you would establish, look, you're going to loan us $2 million. We're going to pay 6% or 8% interest on the deal at the end of the term, which hopefully will be 6 years. But for every acre that we sell or every parcel that we sell, we'll give you some money. So we'll start to retire, later this year or early next year. We sell a retail site for 1.25 million. Maybe we'll give you 250,000 of that to pay down that part of that $2 million.
Yeah,
right.
got it.
That's not unreasonable. So they get their $2 million back, but the 1 million stays in the company. It'll strengthen the balance sheet, obviously, and the debt is only secured by a promissory note from the company to Arif or Hemen. And again, it doesn't appear on the land, so the land looks to be a very strong asset. The second guy was TJ, and maybe he lends the company $2 or $3 million. And Dave, the cool thing about this, what I'm describing now, is they're additive. They're not either or. Like, so what if you have, if the company has a promissory note to Arif or Hemen for $2 million and a promissory note to TJ for $3 million? It just means that you end up, with more money to use for your development, and you'll have lots of cash on hand to pay your coaching fee.
I like that.
Or you pay, your poor professor for his time.
I love that.
So TJ could lend the company $3 million, similar kind of deal, 6 years, maybe 6 or 8% interest cumulative. And in his case, because he's interested in acquiring 20 acres or 30 acres, whatever it is, for his own personal use, is he would simply take that $3 million and convert it to a piece of land. So if there's a piece of land that he's buying from the company for $6 million, he's already paid $3 million of it. But it's hit, you would sit with TJ and say, TJ, we'll get this piece of land up there, at sort of what I call the north or upper end. It'll be for you. We'll make sure you can have, 400 stacked townhouses or 200 townhouses or 160 single family homes or some mix of that. and we'll make it worth your while. So that could be a separate deal. And then for Eric Brisson, your friend and my friend, he was going to put in $300,000 or $400,000 to help you with soft costs. And so what Eric would do is he would loan it to the company. There'd be another promissory note. Oh, can you excuse me just for a minute, guys? This is my doctor calling.
Yep.
No problem.
Hello, doctor. I recognize that. I'm just ending a call now. Can you hang on for like 30 seconds? Would that be okay? Are you sure? Okay, 5 minutes. Thank you. All right, you still there?
Yes, sir.
Let's wait for Carina.
Where'd she go?
Get a pause. Oh, there she is. All right,
Sorry.
Carina, we're almost done. My doctor will call me back in 5 minutes. For Eric Brisson, he will again loan the company $300,000 or $400,000 for soft costs. And how I would repay him is that I would give him an option to acquire those stacked townhouse site that I sketched out, plus the where he could put some of his nice 2- and 3-story multi-res apartment buildings, and he would simply take the $300,000 or $400,000 and apply that to the purchase price of that. And then I would say to Eric, look, it's 15 acres. You don't need 15 acres. He could probably use 3 or 4 acres to build some of his nice apartment buildings, and the other 10 or 11 acres he could sell probably hopefully for the purchase price, so that his 3 or 4 acres would be free.
Yeah, that would be great.
So that is how I would finance it. If you did all of this, you got say $3 million from Marie for Heman. You got another $2 or $3 million from TJ. You got $300,000 or $400,000 from Eric. You'd have plenty of money to close this thing and also deal with some of the planning issues and other issues.
Yeah, and possibly bring in the road. Okay.
Well, that is a minor cost. The stub road won't cost you very much, not 125, maybe 150,000, but that's if you and Dave do a terrible job with your road builder negotiations. All right, I'm counting on you to do better. All right, so you've got 15 minutes. I will fix. I will talk to my doctor, and I will fix that spreadsheet. It'll probably be there 2 minutes to 10.
Okay. Thanks, Bruce.
Good luck. Let me know how it goes.
Thank you. Okay, we will.
This will be on YouTube, so if you need to review it, it'll be there for you.
Sounds good. Thanks. Bye.